Yes, let me take this to my firstborn. Riri's my firstborn. You're my secondborn. Hey, everybody, welcome. Hope everyone is doing well tonight.
Indeed. How you doing, Sheree?
Doing good, thank you.
Great.
We're going to take another 3 minutes. Get ourselves together, get on Facebook Live. Thank you so much. I'm glad you didn't come up behind me. I was using that water and stuff still. Right on it. Okay, come on, let's see. And then we're going out for a walk before we go take a bath. There you go. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Riri. Thank you, Mommy. Sit. Good boy. Okay, everybody, we're going to begin in another minute, another 1 minute. Hope everyone is doing well today. Just have some blockchain news to talk about. And I think in a couple of weeks, Dr. Keisha has a special guest coming on. I want to say it's in 2 weeks. It's on the 9th. Yes. Odom is coming on the 9th. So you all will be able to hear some special stuff. Go ahead, Dr. Keisha, I'm sorry. I can't hear you. Yeah, your microphone must be off.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Right on time for back to school. Odom is a blockchain platform for education. It's certificates and certifications and credentials and whatnot like that. So it's really exciting. I'm excited being a teacher, so that should be interesting. But they've been working on some projects I've been watching. Again, it's kind of just exciting to see things go from, the theory to real application. So
the practicum, yes, yeah. Yes. So it's really funny that you're talking about education, because I was re-listening to a 10K project chat that we did when Dr. Kimbrough didn't come. I was re-listening to that for a specific purpose, and we were talking about immersive learning, in there. And I didn't know what that term meant. I had to go and Google it. I'm like, okay, I was playing it off in the call, but I was like, I really don't know what this means. So, and then I figured out what it meant, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's what I was talking about. It's just, there's like an official name for it. So, yes. So I think that all of those things are important, and the way that education is changing is important, from how it's delivered to how young people and older people are starting to receive it. There's a lot of skill changes, skill and talent changes that I believe are going to happen in the next decade, all the way to how people are certified and how those certifications are checked.
Yeah, and actually even how the professors and teachers and educators are paid and transact their services with the institutions and with the students. So it's getting to be quite a whole ecosystem all to itself, peer-to-peer, just like everything else with the blockchain. So it's exciting. It actually is really exciting. And as we've said before, this COVID situation has really brought to light many things that are being bridged now. Like you said, with the immersive piece, people are like, oh, face-to-face is not as immersive or as effective as as being online. But when we start to bring some other technologies in, you know, like your VR and stuff like that, it becomes super immersive. But again, it's not either one or the other, it's both, but it's taking it to the next level, and it's exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're going to get started, and hopefully Eric will be able to pop back in. I think his
He popped out.
intro. So welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, you know, it's blockchain day. So welcome to Blockchain Chat. We at Black Blockchain Consultants, we are all about the business of blockchain. What does that mean? That means getting blockchain jobs, starting blockchain-based businesses, investing in the blockchain, whether you're investing time or money into a project, and ultimately taking advantage of this $3.1 trillion industry, which with COVID, I believe it has accelerated the time frame. So we want you to be able to take advantage of that. I would like to next week, Dr. Keisha, if you, next week you may not be available. I wanted to do something around smart contracts and talk more about some of the things that's happening in the smart contract industry, because I know that you have a lot of your individuals within the Symbachain group who would be interested in some of those things and some of the lessons that you guys are learning, and then how do you take that and get work with that. So I'm gonna be doing a little bit of research on it. Go ahead, Dr. Keisha.
I was just going to say that might be nice to even bring some of that team on live here. That'd be great if we could, could work it out.
Get everybody together.
Yeah,
so we'll send out a note in the Flock group and see if anyone is available for that. And we may even reach out to Symbachain and see if one of them wants to come. And, the whole conversation really is, okay, not the theoretical information, but what are going to be some of the opportunities that come from it? The job opportunities, the business opportunities, and having people now start being able to take the information that they're learning through Symbachain and actually apply it. So we'll see if David or somebody else from Symbachain is able to come over and speak with us about that. And if we can't do it next week, then we'll look for a good time to do it, because I think that's something that people would really like. And same thing with tokenization of assets. So everyone should know that Blockchain Consortium International is still alive, and we have decided to focus on smart contract consulting and tokenization consulting in the future. So, so stay tuned with that. We're going to have some programs with regards to all of that. So, Dr. Keisha, would you like to officially introduce yourself? I know we kind of brought you in prematurely, but
sorry. Yes, Dr. Keisha Waddell, Chief Training Officer of the Blockchain Consortium International, and Executive Director of the Center for Blockchain Studies, our educational arm of BBC, where we are learning all about blockchain education and its applications to, all the different industries, and really just watching watching the opportunities that are presenting themselves in the industries. And it's just coming alive day by day in the news. So it's been exciting.
Yeah. And Derek?
Yes, Eric Spence, President Blockchain Consortium International. We talk about tokenization. I 100% believe that, this application of blockchain has a chance to really revolutionize the way that, just not just commerce is done, but also the way that we trade value, and the way new value is going to be created, and new markets are going to be created. I think we already see this a lot when we look at the DeFi sector and how that's working. And I'm looking for just a merger too of even real world assets being brought on chain. So I'm really excited about where we're headed with blockchain, and just excited to be here with everybody.
Yeah, and you, Eric, are leading the book club. So book club is next Monday.
Yes.
At 7:30, so that's Monday, August 31st at 7:30 for everybody. You can mark your calendar. Tell everybody about the book, Eric, what we're reading and what people should learn from book club.
Here we go. Let me pull it up here. This is a book that we have been covering through the book club. We've been covering it through the majority of the year. We do take it kind of slow, but which is a good thing, I think, so, because we take time to have a real rich discourse and to really dig deep into it. But it is a real business of blockchain. And what I do like about it is, once again, it's a real business of blockchain. So we're talking about you as a business leader applying use cases of blockchain and how you would do that, and all of the different nuances that you would need to look at, whether that's you looking to utilize blockchain in your own business, or also look.
Oh, he froze again. Okay, well,
yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
say.
he'll come back. So everybody, The Real Business of Blockchain, you are able to get it on Amazon. We all have copies of it. And book club is on Monday, the 31st at 7:30 Eastern. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Yes. So definitely come in, listen to that. If you're unavailable, listen to the replay. If you're serious about being a blockchain consultant or working in this space, then some of the things that the book does, or what the book does really well, is it takes you out of the theoretical part of blockchain and it moves you into the business case for blockchain. So if you're meeting with a C-suite person, you know, if you're meeting with the person that is making a business decision about whether or not they should use blockchain, then The Real Business of Blockchain is a great book. And one of the things that Eric and Talisha do really well is they take the concepts and simplify them for us even more. So I can't recommend book club enough. If you want to make 6, 7, 8 figures in blockchain, then you're in the right place, you know, BBC and book club. And if you are not a member, then we encourage you to become a member of BBC, because that's how you get into book club and get into the Simba chain training and all of the other things that we have going on within what we call the inner circle. So you get there from going to the website blockchainstudies.tech. blockchainstudies.tech. You can become a member, you can take classes, and you can join in on discussions. There are people who have joined together, started teams, and are creating businesses together, blockchain-based businesses in all sorts of industries. So, you know, now is the time for people to get involved. So, Eric, I would love for you to continue what you were saying.
Sorry, I'm having some internet difficulties right now. Hopefully Verizon will come out and get this straight. But yes, I was actually just speaking about the book club and about the discussions that we have that are very rich, because we do dig in deep. The book does dig in deep about the applications of blockchain and how and why, not just you know, how it would be applied into certain business sectors, but the why, and why also you would need to use certain blockchain applications rather than others. So I just think it's just a great discussion for anyone to have, you know, as part of our group. So yes, please join the inner circle, and we'd love to have you be a part of it.
Yeah. So I will be sending out in the next couple of days, I'll be sending out the Zoom link, but right now you can just put it in your calendar for Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. All righty then. So are we ready to start with our 2 articles of the day, a little news you can use on the blockchain front?
Yes, let's go.
Yes.
All right. So the first is an article. Every time I see this guy, I'm like, wow, he looks like he's 10.
I know. And
This
he's
is,
older now. This is his older look.
he's looking a little older, but he still looks like, oh my goodness, he looks like a baby. And maybe
Yeah.
it's because the first pictures I saw of him was when he was 19 and he hasn't changed that much. But this is Vitalik Buterin. He is the co-founder of Ethereum. He is really well known in the blockchain world. And he did a Q&A session with this tech node here. And he said a few things in here that I thought was very interesting. So I wanted to talk about it with my panel here. And this is from a couple of days ago. So they were having a conference, the annual Ethereum Developers Conference. And one of the things that they say in here is, I think that the Chinese were in attendance. So I highlighted that because anytime the people you're talking about are in attendance, you have to take what is being said with a grain of salt. But let's still see what he is talking about with regards to China. And it's about China's rise as a global blockchain powerhouse. So first thing it says is that Buterin doesn't really often talk about this, this issue. The Ethereum co-founder welcomes Chinese developers, government, and large enterprises to the field, but warns that a preference for consortium blockchains may get in the way of their international ambitions. This type of blockchain centralizes control of the network. In an international context, you cannot assume that there is even a single government that everyone trusts, whereas public blockchains are more easily perceived as being neutral. Buterin also sees potential in the Chinese government-led Internet of Blockchains, BSN, but cautious that it's far from a done deal. He compared the hype to Facebook's Libra digital currency, which also made headlines when announced. Only 5 months later, major partners pulled from the project and it has yet to pick up steam. So the TechNode person is asking these questions, and Dr. Keisha, Eric, whenever you guys are ready to stop me, you see something, just hop on in. Just say, hey, Cherie, stop, okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So TechNode asks, where are you seeing the most blockchain talent geographically? And Vitalik says, I see many successful teams in US, Europe, Australia, and more recently in China. Governments are increasingly involved in blockchain, either through regulation or their own initiatives. Consortium chains are garnering increasing attention and popularity. Do you think that either or both of these moves diminish the potential for decentralization? He says, public chains are gaining more support recently, including from large enterprises and even government applications in a few cases. Consortium chains are, of course, the more safe and conservative option, and much more powerful than public chains in the short term, because public chains have scalability issues. But I think public chains will prove themselves to be more safe and scalable with time. So I didn't have that highlighted, but I think that's an important thing.
Yeah.
I will say, one comment about that, of Vitalik making that point. I'm pretty sure as he's saying that, he is also thinking of ETH 2.0. And as ETH 2.0 is going to launch, is going to hopefully, I think we're looking at, before the end of the year. It has been, it's an ambitious time frame, but many people think it may not be until 2021. But ETH 2.0 is going to increase the scalability of Ethereum, and fix a lot of the issues that a lot of people have had about Ethereum. Can it scale? Can it scale to be able to have the amount of TPS, transactions per second, that would be needed for large scale or enterprises to be able to run on? So we're going to see.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting already that when you said when Vitalik said something about comparing what China's doing to the fanfare that was around Libra, that and if they were in the room, I know they were almost like, that sounds like a challenge, to me, that they would, because we see what happened with that really
Yes,
just
it
kind
fell
of blew
apart.
up. Right. And we know how big China is. So to me, it sounds like, to put those two together, I don't know. I'd be sitting there like, oh, well, I will show you.
Well, so the key difference with China is that China is a government, and China has extreme control over their people.
Correct.
Extreme control versus most other places in the world. The United States, let's say, Europe. You could put a consortium of companies together and they say, we don't want to work with each other, and that's it. In China,
shut him off.
It's not, even though there are Chinese billionaires, the understanding is that it's not as free as, as people make it out to be.
Indeed.
So that's where I think the real difference is with China.
And that's exactly my point. To think that to compare them to Libra is just to say, like, we can totally bypass all their problems because of the control we have.
But the other thing that he said that is important is that most of the outside world won't trust China to dominate blockchain.
Correct.
So I think that's where he was headed with that, is you couldn't get most of the world to trust China to run a blockchain node, or not a node, but a real network or consortium of networks.
Agree.
You couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
So they asked here, how do you think China's increased activity in the blockchain world, both by the private and public sectors, will affect the development of the technology in the next decade? What are some of the pros and cons? He said, one main challenge I see is that so far Chinese large enterprises and government tend to focus mostly on consortium change. And while I think this will work within China, I also think that many of the most valuable blockchain applications are international ones. And in an international context, you cannot assume that there is even a single government that everyone trusts, whereas public blockchains are more easily perceived as being neutral. So this is what we were just saying here. So he recognizes that, and I think the Chinese recognize it, and
Well, I'm thinking because we're talking about centralizing really things here. So that's that control. I would think most governments would be like, oh yeah, this is great. Yeah, we can definitely, because again, when I think of blockchain, I automatically think of in its ideal state of being public and being decentralized. But what we're talking about right now is really the change from proof of work to proof of stake, which is more of a technical change that, that deals with the hashing power, which, everybody's all about that, trying to make sure we don't use as much power that, proof of work does. So with that being the focus, in terms of us being the business of blockchain, it sounds like what would be a potential niche would be, the manufacturing of energy efficient staking computers. How we have gaming computers and stuff like that, and mining nodes and things like that. That sounds like an opportunity.
All right, Dr. Kishwa, you run with that.
Yeah.
along with the 8 other things that you're doing.
Well, again, somebody grab on that.
Yes, that's what we do. We like throw out $1 billion ideas, and we're like, please, somebody take this, please.
And then come back and share.
Yes. Ethereum is one of the chains available on China's BSN, according to Red Date. How was the decision to participate taken? Can you describe the reasoning? How do you think you can manage the collaboration and competitive relationship, given that both projects pertain to smart contracts and dApps? He says that decision was taken by the BSN group. It would be better to ask them for their reasoning. I think they simply want to give developers options and the ability to use high quality public networks that are widely used. And Ethereum is absolutely at the forefront of that. I don't see BSN as a competitor to Ethereum. I see it as being a different layer. I could agree with that.
I could too, with the,
Yeah.
I do too.
I
Yeah.
also think that it's not just that they want to give the Chinese developers options. They also want other developers from other nations to feel comfortable being a part of the consortium, you know, in my opinion.
and I would think too, just like we were just talking, we know how large China is. If they're using Ethereum 2.0, you know, that would be a tremendous test case to check it out. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're very active with blockchain. What is your take on go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you know, one thing I will say that's very interesting about that is we know, especially us, you know, been around for a little bit, there were several Chinese native blockchains like Neo that were launched. And it's interesting to see kind of the shift because and that was the thing, and, you know, and the quote was Neo was referred to as the Chinese Ethereum. You know, that's what, you know, it's the same thing with smart contract platform, Turing complete. But it's interesting to kind of see that shift. But one of the big things is Ethereum has the largest developer community of any of the blockchains. And because of that community having so many devs, I can see now for China of just seeing that, of just saying, well, you know what? We're just going to have to work with them. So yeah, so that was
Let's see here. What is your take on the BSN more broadly? What will its impact be? He says, it's important to not try to guess too much from early initial information about a project when it is being released. E.g., I think this is one of the mistakes that people made with Libra. We've already talked about why Libra is different from BSN and from the Chinese consortiums. It seems like he's just being cautious here and just saying, you know, let's wait and see. He doesn't. One thing that I think with Vitalik is people may tend to take everything he says so literally that they would make investment decisions and other types of decisions based on what he's saying. So he probably has some thoughts about it that he's just not willing to share.
Oh man, he should teach. He should tell him to text Elon Musk. He don't do that.
Elon puts everything out there. Yes. And you know, but Elon is a very interesting person. He will like bankrupt Tesla 8 times and get it out of bankruptcy 9. It's just, I mean, the man is like, you know, we call it defibrillator. It's
but you know what? But you know what I think that is that he's so rich that he's really about the advancement of the technology, so that it's not really, I mean, obviously it's profit motive, but that to me it seems like it's almost secondary for just the reason, like you're saying, we just kind of keep making these advancements, you know. I think that's what really drives him.
I think he's a prick.
Yeah. Oh, I think, well, that he still could be a you know, creative one at the same time.
Yeah, you know, but I mean, people talked about Steve Jobs and how difficult he was to work with, and you get these genius types. They're a genius, but they are jerks.
Oh, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that away from him.
You know what? But, hey, let me tell you something funny. I'm not gonna get off topic anymore. I know we brought up Elon. My son brought up something to me last night that was very key, and he was talking about the cryptic tweet that Elon put out, where he said on May 1st that Tesla's stock is too high, but he did that on May 1st, which was 5-1, and Tesla, you know, is doing a stock split of 5-1. So that was kind of his own little tongue-in-cheek cryptic messaging. So, but
yeah,
sure, he's not a fan of it. You can tell.
And see, if we had done some crap like that, we'd be behind bars. But,
100%.
Again, Richie Rich.
100%.
It's not because he's rich. I'll say that's for other reasons. A la Robert Smith, look it up.
Yeah.
All right, so I know. So, all right, the journalist is asking here, you began your career as a journalist at Bitcoin Magazine. I didn't even know this until I read this article. I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Have skills from media helped you in your later career? What is the most common mistake journalists and public speakers make when communicating about blockchain in the general public? His answer, probably the two most important skills that I learned were, one, an understanding of the technology and economics and other properties of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and two, writing skills. I'm going to expand that to say communication skills, not just writing, okay? I think the biggest mistake made by a lot of educational writing is that there are usually two types of educational writing. First, there is writing that tries to fully explain the idea technically with the goal of helping people fully understand it and be able to implement it. However, this writing tends to be very academic, very difficult to read, and often written to be read by people who studied the same things in university as the author did. Second, there is writing that targets the general public, but is completely technically inaccurate. I feel like there is a large missing space in between these two extremes, and it's what I try to target with a lot of my writing. When I read this, you know what I honestly thought? Career, and if you wanted to be a blockchain writer, like truly understand blockchain and truly be a great writer, able to articulate to the tech geek group of the community as well as the layperson, if Vitalik is saying that this is a problem, there's probably really good money to be made if you want to be a blockchain writer.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Absolutely. And
I want to hear what people think in the chat. What do you think? What do you think in the chat? So,
and I just want to say that first of all, that's very perceptive of Vitalik in recognizing that the difference. I'm just going to say this. I was on Blockchain and Booze last night in the chat as they were doing they're doing a blockchain chat on just real estate and tokenization. So of course, I was interested to be there, and it was really interesting because it got very heated with a lot of people in there. One guy took a completely
really.
Oh yeah, it got really heated. It was really funny.
A fight on the chain? What?
Oh yeah. One took a very contrarian viewpoint, and he was very strident in his position, and it was just him against the world. But he wasn't backing down, so it was really interesting. But one of the things that I did comment in the chat that people agree with, I said, a lot of blockchain technologists have not. Big Victoria said, yeah, she was there. She watched the heat. So, but a lot of them haven't, they don't, or I don't say this the right way, but they aren't completely grasping the anthropology and what it takes for human beings to come together and to build cohesion and community and all of those things that, to me, are some of the things that spurn innovation forward and allow us to push through breakthroughs and to progress. And a lot of times I think they get only caught up in the technological weeds, and they can only see problems that need to be fixed, and they don't see the way in which we're going to progress and move past it. And for me, that's just I felt like that was a part of his hang up. And I commented that in the chat, and people said, you're right. But.
So, Eric, are you volunteering to be the blockchain referee?
No.
Is that a career for you?
No, I don't know, because it's just one of these things. I just see it. I watched this. I read this interview earlier a few months ago on Ethereum, and they were talking about the Ethereum community and how they come together from all of these different backgrounds, and how they, come up with these dances when they come together. No one would have saw this happening, but this is what happens when humans come together and, connect on any point, I guess, to where they connect on. So I think Vitalik himself has probably matured a lot to understand this. So.
Yeah. So Stephanie is saying, I'm a software developer who is trying to get into technical writing because I know this will be important in the near future. Yeah, I mean, if you're able to get into one of the big companies, I know a girl that makes 6 figures doing technical writing for Google and the big companies that are out there. So yeah, so technical writing is huge. But I will admit that it's huge, but I found that it's widespread in terms of some people will say technical writing and it's like a $25 an hour gig, and you go in for 1 month and you write the operations manual, and other technical writers are making huge sums of money. So you do just have to kind of really build your network in order to do technical writing for the higher paying positions, but they're definitely out there. Victoria, I also agree regarding the need for writing that appeals to the public more than the techies. I started my blog for that very reason. Congratulations. Yeah. Communications experts are going to be very important. So that's why I said not just writing, but all forms of communication. Everything from, can you do videos? Can you do explainer videos? Can you do communicate to the public, communicate as a publicist to the media? All of those things are going to be very important. So Dr. Keisha saying, drop your link to your blog, Victoria. And Victoria, you just sent it to the panelists, so make sure you click on that button and send it to everybody so that everyone can read your blog.
Please. Yes.
And Victoria, if you ever want to come on Blockchain Chat and talk about your blockchain blog, we would welcome you, because Tawana has asked us to have more guest stars here. So please do. So Dr. Keisha will be in touch with you for that. So let's see here. And then the final question that I wrote down here is about Ethereum 2.0, which Eric had already started talking about. The ETH 2.0 research team takes decentralization very seriously. We have made many protocol changes to try to make the protocol more friendly to individual and small scale stakers. Staking pools are definitely going to happen, though it is definitely our hope and our expectation that there is less centralization in staking than there was in mining. So people are working to get that decentralization together. So any final thoughts on this before I move to Consensys, an article with Consensys?
No, I will say that he did make that point, and I think that it was a very fair question for the interviewer to ask him about, will this lead to more centralization? In case anyone doesn't know, to run a staking node on Ethereum, you're going to need 32 Ethereum to do that. If you were to look at that price right now, and I'm not sure what that would be, I think Ethereum somewhere around, $390 or something like that. So I can't do the math in my head, but this may be out of the reach.
It's a lot of money. Yeah,
exactly. So that may be out of the reach for quite a bit of people, but he does say that they have thought about those things, and they do have that, so that they have prepared so that you won't have that where it will be much more decentralized. I will say though, I am interested to see what this does do for the mining industry. As far as for mining Ethereum, you'll still need to mine Bitcoin no matter what, but as Bitcoin would still remain as proof of work. But for Ethereum going to proof of stake, it's going to be interesting to see how miners are going to how they're going to handle that.
Yeah. So you said it's 32 ETH?
Yeah, 32
Yeah, so
ETH.
it's over $10,000.
Okay, yeah.
Over
So,
$10,000 to play, and that's times, what you're doing here. So the second article of the day is about Consensys acquiring JP Morgan's blockchain platform Quorum. And I have to admit, after reading this, I'd like more information about this. It seems a little garbled, but let's take a look at it together and see what the Reuters article is saying. So Brooklyn-based startup Consensys has acquired JP Morgan Chase's marquee blockchain platform Quorum. As part of the deal, JP Morgan also made a strategic investment in Consensys, but the companies declined to disclose the financial terms of the relationship. So the first thing, JP Morgan made a strategic investment in Consensys. I don't know Consensys's numbers, but I know that they were having some financial difficulties at one point. They had laid off a bunch of people. I wonder if this is a way for Consensys to have a lifeline. And I wonder if Consensys acquiring this may not be for cash. It may be for the one thing that Consensys does have is they have a very strong team of people who truly understand blockchain and know how to get into corporate as well as government. So what do you two think about this, Dr. Keisha and Eric, just that one line there?
well, I'll say this. This is what's interesting about this, acquisition is, I think in the article, I don't know if it mentions it here or not, but one of the things I look at for this is, you remember when JP Morgan, and I think they still have this, but they were launching the JPM coin. And, that was going to be the token used for the banks to transfer, interbanks. Within banks, like within the banking system. What was really interesting to that was, just like earlier, we were talking about Ethereum and Neo and the Chinese, Chinese blockchain there, and kind of what is that mean for Neo? This makes me say, well, wait a minute, what does that mean for Ripple? Or XRP, shall I say? Where that's pretty much, isn't that kind of a lot of their use case is for they to have the, so I look at this and I wonder, well, wow, this could, how much will that now begin to really affect that company? It's always like this one moment, this one kind of ping pong, it moves from one side to the other. So that was one, thing that really jumped out at me.
Yeah. And Tangi is saying CNBC said that JP Morgan will be able to sit on the Consensys board and make their own tokens. So that goes back to what you were saying. So here they acquired Quorum's intellectual property, and JP Morgan has made a strategic investment, and there is a commercial arrangement to continue to support JP Morgan in their projects. So to me, it sounds like a line item where they took an intangible asset, this intellectual property, and moved it from JP Morgan over to Consensys. But in exchange for that, if the strategic investment is a contract with, Consensys gets a contract with JP Morgan in order to support the creation of any of the JP Morgan projects or the token or whatever, then that would make more sense to me, what they were trying to do here. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I'm just saying, there are, it's not one of those clean and dry acquisitions. Let's just say that. So Umar Farouk, global head of blockchain at JP Morgan, said, "We believe a platform like Quorum could thrive better in the hands of a software and services oriented organization." So I thought this was interesting as well. Basically what they're saying is JP Morgan has a lot of different divisions, and they believe that Quorum would do better in a more niche blockchain specialized company. What do you think about that?
Mhm.
See, I agree. Okay, let me just say this. Because I think something like many times we know this. Those who are very much blockchain native and that's their focus are going to see it from a different vantage point than those who are pretty much centered in the banking industry. Just kind of like what I was talking about earlier with, sometimes our limitations, like we're limited because we're completely immersed in that one industry. So we can only see the applications there, whereas people on the outside are able to look on the outside and see it. I say, you mentioned Steve Jobs earlier. Well, let me just say this from a different industry. Steve Jobs, in a lot of ways, good or bad, really revolutionized the music industry. But Steve Jobs wasn't immersed in the music industry when he launched iTunes at all. And I will say this, and really knowing a lot of the development and the major players involved, for them, they could only see the obstacles. Like if you look back and you remember initially with Napster, who was first ones out, of looking to digitize music and to be able to sell it. And remember that the industry response then was to fight against Napster, fight them, shut them down, sue them, all of that. And that was pretty much the thought pattern there.
Right.
And for Jobs, he wasn't hung up in those kind of weeds and had those kind of limitations. And I say this probably, with JP Morgan understanding this, that, we're only going to go so far because we have people who are, they're just immersed completely into banking, and they're only going to see a lot of the obstacles. So as someone like Consensys, they are on the outer edges. They are on the very edges of the technological advancement and integration of blockchain. So they're not really going to be limited as much by a lot of the weeds. And then, when problems happen, they'll
You
progress.
actually make a very good point. I didn't think about it like that. So what you're basically saying is JP Morgan probably still owns a piece of Quorum, or they own a piece of Consensys because of this. What Consensys is able to do is take this from just being a banking blockchain application and making it a broad application. And then from that, you've taken something that could be worth $1 billion and make it worth 100 billion.
Exactly.
Because now it has widespread application. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that when I read this article.
Yeah, there was some principle. I don't know what the principle is called, but someone wrote a book about it. And it was about the fact that when you look at innovations and how they happen, it's usually someone outside of the industry.
Yes,
makes sense.
That is true.
Rather than those who are inside most of the time.
Yes, because people inside an industry will say, well, that's how we've always done it. People outside will say, but why? And is there a better way? And going back to your music industry example, I'm so embarrassed to say that I remember this. I remember random stuff, but I even remember when Napster was like really hot. I was watching an interview with Mary J. back in the day. And she said, I don't want people downloading my music. I want them to go to the store and buy the CD. And it was at the time when, CDs, right? Yeah. And what you're saying about people fighting it. And now Mary J. probably makes good money from her streaming. Well, I guess, I don't know what the rules and, operations are, but people are streaming her type of music, endlessly. So yeah. Okay, so just another couple of sentences here. So Quorum, which will remain open source, is being used by the bank to run the Interbank Information Network, a payments network that involves more than 300 banks. The network and other bank projects running on Quorum will continue to operate using the platform, JP Morgan said. So this is the end of the article here.
Yeah.
So I think there's just some interesting things that are happening within within blockchain and within the industry.
And,
I
and I
do.
think, I was just going to say too, I think that we're also seeing that, much like how you were saying earlier, Eric, that people are staying live and relevant by collaborating, and merging. And that was a smart move on their part to come together in that way, to get that new perspective and, stretch out the possibilities.
Absolutely. I think that, and I think for them, them releasing control to someone else, they will, like you said, Sheree, I think they'll go much further with it, than that. Like one of the things, and we've talked about it, even here, I'm doing another shameless plug for this book, Real Business of Blockchain. One of the things that we talked about is just the myriad of applications whenever you start digitizing assets, whenever you start making assets programmable. And probably if you're completely immersed in the banking sector, you may, and I'm saying if people that are there want to completely disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. But you may be restricting the amount of uses and use cases that you're seeing, whereas others who are, like I said, we talked about those who are on the very edge of blockchain applications and integrations are probably saying, no, but we could try this. Well, why don't we do this? Well, hey, this is an application that we, this would be much more beneficial to people if we could use the assets in this way. And as and that's how many times how progression and innovation starts taking place. So yes, I think I agree, Sheree. I think them releasing it, they'll probably get much further along with it.
I agree with that too. Tanji also said something that I want to not challenge, challenge just a little bit. She says banks aren't going anywhere, people need to wake up. So I agree that banks aren't going anywhere, but I think that if you just say banks, it's too limiting. I believe we need to look at it as how commerce happens and how finance and financial institutions run. So let's go back to the whole Napster, Apple Music, CDs to Napster to Apple Music. Really, the problem they were solving was how is music distributed? Or how is content distributed? Because now it's not just music, it's content. That's what YouTube did. That's what we're doing on Zoom, with the Facebook Live and all of that. How is music, Audible with audio books, all of those things. How is content distributed? So I think what we do is we take a step back and go, not just banks, but how is commerce done? And I could be wrong about the commerce. It could be another term, but whatever banking gets us, we need to take a step back as consultants, as blockchain consultants, and think, how do we revolutionize the way maybe money is moved, maybe the way transactions are done? With the 10K project, for example, we are revolutionizing the way Black businesses get money. So it's not a direct attack. It's just kind of like let's add on to that.
Angie, I want to hear your rebuttal. Go, you got to type.
She's typing in there. So
we'll
wait for you to finish typing.
She said, I'm cool with it.
I'm cool with it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So this is where the virtual incubators come in that I've been talking about. Like, we need to have hey, let's just come in and take this article or take this piece of information and just chat about it, because that's where your $1 billion ideas come from. It's not just, people sitting in a vacuum. It really is like, hey, you start talking to someone and then another person says something and another person says something, and next thing you know, you got a $10 billion idea.
And you know what, Sheree, and can I say one thing to you about this? Sure. Just in the sense of, once again, borrowing the example of the music industry. Hey, listen, even though streaming is where the overwhelming majority of music is consumed, you can still buy CDs in certain places. You can still, go and buy vinyl records and that sort of thing. And at one point, vinyl did have a resurgence. So I think sometimes, there's always been this mentality of, oh, we're going to completely do away with it, and that's just it, and it's going to be this. And it just never really works that way. There's always a bit of a hybrid approach where there's always a retaining of a lot of the old guard, but there's still a greater percentage than it does adopt the new ways of doing things.
Yeah, and then that's what I'm always saying, that there's going to be a coexistence of things, and certainly, we're going to continue to advance technologically, no question about it. But that's where I like to always encourage people who do still think in the old way, or the old school way. They are the main ones that you can bring into that group we were talking about, where you can get some ideas about what's next or what could be better, because it's those folks that even know about it. As you get younger and younger people, they don't even know about CDs, you know what I'm saying? So they don't even realize the challenges we've ever had, so that's where that collaboration of all types of folks who are old school and and when we think about our innovations, what is it? I want to call it the bell curve, but the innovations curve. We have the laggers and the different people like that, having those folks together where we could kind of talk about some of the issues and concerns and whatnot like that, it gives rise to ways to bridge the gaps, the concerns, and, consider what really are some of the limitations, and then all of it needs to be heard. I think a lot of times we get into that shiny thing mode, kind of thing, and we just hear all the positive thing about everything, but it is really important to get both sides so we can mitigate any of the issues that might exist. And a lot of times it doesn't just have to be issues. It really can be opportunities, as we've seen with COVID. As bad as it is, there have been opportunities, and most often than not, opportunities come out of, the worst kind of challenges.
They do.
So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoyed Blockchain Chat tonight. If you are not a member and you want to become a part of our inner circle, come to blockchainstudies.tech. You can take our Blockchain 101 class. You can become a member. We have classes around smart contracts and blockchain and cybersecurity and healthcare and things like that. We have a vibrant community of blockchain consultants. And if you are a member, Monday, August 31st, don't forget, we are going to have book club, The Real Business of Blockchain, led by Eric and Talisha, Monday, the 31st at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if there's anything else we can do, just drop it in Flock. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a very, very blessed evening.
Take care of yourself. Be safe.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.